Okay, Feroze, let me bring you in. Good evening. Thanks for joining in. What are the conversations that you've been hearing around you? Because for us, we've been already flooded with queries. People want to know what exactly happens. We've just heard Mr. Chanda Kochar come and clarify that tomorrow, of course, again, an important reiteration. Tomorrow, by the way, banks are shut for all public dealing because tomorrow is the day that banks get rid of the 500 and 1000 rupee notes and bring in fresh currency notes. And then, therefore, they can start perhaps dispensing at a better pace come Thursday. So, Feroze, first thoughts on the sort of disruption that perhaps lies ahead?
Yeah, I think, Surabhi, like you rightly pointed out, there is panic already on the streets, as you said. But I personally think that the panic would settle down and the panic would be restricted to these 2 days of holiday, to my mind, in terms of the cash availability, because the cash availability is not going to be constrained beyond these 2 days where the banking system is going to be closed. And of course, urban areas will not have so much of trouble, unlike the rural areas, which are not as banked as the urban metros are. So in my opinion, I think the panic would settle down sooner than people expect it to. Because the banking system will pump a different denomination, which I think is acceptable. So secondly, when it comes to impacts on assets, I think there's going to be a huge transformation in how the Indian community looks at real estate and gold, and there will be a huge flight of capital to the more robust assets like equity and debt. Yields would probably soften, and there will be demand for bonds, and gold and real estate will see some turmoil. And of course, rupees should appreciate after
that's an interesting,
so strong.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you've made on real estate, Feroze. We'll come back to that in just a bit. I'll just take some of the queries that we're getting on Twitter as well. We've got Lalit Sanghvi sending us this question. He's saying, how will the stock market react? Well, Lalit, that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's so many factors. There's, of course, this humongous news that's come in. Fair point, Gaurav. Feroze, let's talk about reaction in different asset classes and markets. To start off with, in equities, do you expect any sort of knee-jerk reaction maybe tomorrow at all? And then let's just delve a little deeper on real estate, because this, in a way, seems to be a forced income disclosure scheme. I mean, we've had voluntary income disclosure schemes in the past. This is pretty much forced. So what happens to real estate, values? What happens to transactions, perhaps, which are in process? People who are right now making part payment to buy a property, what should they be doing?
Correct. I think from the first point which you were making, what's going to happen to the real estate equity market? I think from the short term, of course, it's going to be demand and supply which will drive the knee-jerk reaction, or maybe a positive reaction maybe tomorrow. So I personally think the long-term effect is going to be significantly positive, because there is going to be huge flight of capital to equity, because real estate as an asset class for the short run would be completely written off, to my mind, because real estate's black money was the FII for real estate. So I just like equities FII inflow, black money was the FII to real estate, and if that gets evaporated, so then I think there will be equity markets which will rally up in the near term as well, may not be tomorrow or a week's time from now.
Okay. Okay, Feroze, last word from you as well. Any advice for those who are looking at either buying or selling real estate?
In my opinion, real estate, of course, is going to go through some degree of challenge. Just from before this move itself, real estate has been going through some challenge, and I think, in my opinion, a couple of years of consolidation in real estate is inevitable, and this actually aggravates the situation. In my opinion, there are about 8 lakh apartments in 5 metros of the country which are unsold. So these will now be sold at significantly lower prices, because affordability in terms of white money, accounted money payments, is going to come down, and that will bring down prices. And if you look at reports of all the builders' net worths having come down by about 90%, so their holding capacity is lower. So in turn, the prices, to my mind, can anywhere between 20 to 35% fall in metros in residential real estate is inevitable over the next 1 year.
All right, Feroze, thanks so much for joining in. Gaurav, appreciate you being with us as well. That's why we take a break, but do stay tuned, because the big story continues to unfold right here on CNBC TV18.